study shows that just over 50% of the adults in the UK are in debt. And if you yourself are not in debt, the next person that you talk to is very likely to be in some kind of debt. In this video, I'm going to break down everything that you need to know about debt and how you can use it to actually create more money. By the end of this video, you will know the difference between good debt versus bad debt, as well as understand when is the best time to take out debt and when you should run away from it. But before we jump into the video, it will mean a lot to me if you could smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will be forever in debt to you. And when you meet up with your mates at the pub, debt is not a common topic of conversation. Instead, the conversation is pivoted around the flashy things that you have bought, and most likely use debt in order to purchase them, be it a new house or a new car, or maybe splashed out by financing a high-end watch. In all honesty, debt is all around us. And as technology constantly becomes better and easier, it means that debt is becoming even more accessible for everyone. I mean, nowadays, you can finance the purchase of fast fashion clothing. Now, as of February 2021, the people of UK owed £1.6 trillion in debt, which is £15.1 billion more than the same time last year in 2020. Now, when we keep mortgages in the mix, this means that the average total debt per household is £60,935. Based on these numbers, the UK's total interest payment, and remember, this is only the interest on personal debt over the following 12 months, will be around £44.5 billion, which equates to £122 million a day. Now, the worrying fact is that 35% of the people in debt are in the position largely due to normal living expenses. Now, 31% of these people said it was due to changes in financial circumstances due to the pandemic. Now, the study showed that a quarter of these people in debt also seems to be paying off the minimum amount on their credit cards. And when we look at a credit card repayment calculator, it's quite clear to see how much you can save if you were just to increase your payments slightly to a fixed amount each month. Now, before we break down the difference between good debt and bad debt, I just want to turn back in time a little bit so that we can truly understand what debt is. So let's go back to a time before banks even existed. We have a man who has just caught a deer, and we have a farmer who has some carrots. Back in this time, there was no currency, so they would exchange what they had with each other in order to get something that they wanted. However, in this case, the meat is actually worth more than the carrots. So something needs to be created in order to cover the deficit. But just to add something else into the mix, we have a real life problem. This is due to seasons. So when it's cold, the hunter can still catch the deer, but the farmer has not been able to grow his carrots. And also, the hunter has nowhere to store the excess deer that he has caught. So here comes the invention of loans or debt. Now, this is where the farmer accepts to take the deer from the hunter with the promise that he would pay the hunter back with carrots at a later date. So this is exactly the same concept that was adopted by banks as well. Initially, this started off as a method of the bank being able to lend money to the value that was held by the bank, either in cash or in gold or any other monetary value. And there is still evidence of this on any British banknote. And this is where you can see, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £20, which implies that you have borrowed this money from the bank, and this note signifies an IOU which can be cashed out when needed. But as the years went by and technology forced banks to become more and more digital, this resulted in a method where banks were able to create more money out of thin air. So let's say I want to buy a Lamborghini Aventador. The cost of this car is around £300,000. I would go to the bank and tell them that I want a loan to buy the car. The bank will do all the necessary checks to work out whether they think I can repay the loan back or not. And once they decide they can lend me the money, they don't call someone to come out with a big bag of cash. Instead, they will press a few buttons on a computer and promise to cover the amount of £300,000 as a loan to me, essentially creating money from thin air. Now I can head over to Lamborghini, and unless I'm like Mr. Beast who goes around buying cars in penny coins, I would actually just give my credit card and show some ID. and then the bank will transfer the money from my account to Lamborghini. And now this means that the owner of the Lamborghini dealership can now use this money to pay their staff and pay for any of their own expenses, which means that the money that I borrowed from the bank that was created out of thin air is now new money in the economy. Now in an ideal situation, I'll be able to pay the loan back in full over a certain time period. However, there are many situations where people start to default on their loans because their circumstances change, or they just can't keep up with the amount of borrowing that they're doing. And unfortunately, the people who get hit the worst on repayments of debt are the ones that do not have much money, as they're the ones most likely with a bad credit score. And so if they wanted to take out any debt for a mortgage, or a car loan, or a personal loan, they're likely to have very high interest rates, making it even more likely that they will default on their payments at some point. But not all debt is bad. There will always be a level of risk involved, but if you use your debt wisely, it could be used in a way to make you more money. The first method to know and understand about debt is the method of leveraging. This is the act of using a loan to increase your profits. Let's say, for example, I want to buy a flat with cash for £100,000 and I want to rent it out for £1,000 a month. This will equate to £12,000 a year. This means that I'll make a 12% profit on my investment every year. However, what if I only put down £25,000 and borrow the remaining £75,000 at a 5% annual interest rate? I can actually increase my profitability because 5% interest on a £75,000 loan is £3,750 a year, and with a rental income of £12,000, this means I'll have a profit of £8,250. And when considering that against the initial £25,000 investment, that means I'm going to be making a 33% profit. So rather than making 12% profit on one property by buying it in cash, I can now actually buy 4 properties and my total profit will be £33,000 rather than £12,000 a year. But if the market crashes, then I'm short £300,000 in loans and payments, and naturally paying those back will become overwhelming pretty quickly. Now another method of good debt is when it's used for general lifestyle. So typically, many people will have one or multiple credit cards, and they are great ways to build your credit rating to help you get better interest rates and show the bank that you are trustworthy enough for banks to lend to you. But this only works if you use your credit cards properly. Like I mentioned on my previous video, the best way to use credit cards is to keep within a 30% utilization, where you only use up 30% of your credit limit, and ensure that you pay off your credit cards in full each month. Therefore, the best way to ensure this happens is to treat your credit card like a debit card and only use it when you know you have the money sitting in your current account somewhere. But lots of people end up using credit cards to go on vacations or generally try to sustain a lifestyle that they just can't afford, which leads them to live a life of debt. But sometimes it's a good idea to actually take on additional debt to help pay off existing debt. Let's say, for instance, Sammy over here. He's gone on a shopping spree. He has racked up about £5,000 of credit card debt, but he has a high interest rate of 25% on those store credit cards. However, Sammy might be able to take out a personal loan at 8% to pay off his credit cards, and then he'll be able to make payments on a cheaper loan. This is typically considered as something called debt consolidation. But the key thing here is to ensure that you can comfortably pay the new loan repayments without defaulting. Now, if you're in any kind of debt, the best way to get out of it is to follow these simple steps. Understand and track all of your debt. Prioritize and simplify your life, and start budgeting. But if you want more information on these points, take a look at the video I put out recently around these topics. Once you've mastered those aspects of your life, the next thing is to pay down your debt with a good strategy and start working on building an emergency fund to ensure that you don't get into a position like that again in the future. That's it from me today. I hope you've learned a little bit about debt and how you can use it in your advantage. If you have any additional tips on how to use debt, please let me know in the comments down below. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I'll be forever indebted to you if you take some time to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button as well, so you get notified when my next video comes out. And as always, like the video, comment down below, and share with your friends and family. Peace and love to all of you. See you on the next video. Bye.